Well, let me ask a silly question. What is it that you guys expect from this class?
Challenge?
Challenge?
Yeah. Notions of ethics, I guess.
Okay. Anyone else? Ethan?
I feel like you're not going to really like hold our hands and kind of give us the answer. You kind of expect us to like, if there's a question that you ask, you kind of expect us to find the answer ourselves.
Can I tell you a story? I'm not quite sure how old the story is, but for the longest time in our human history, we were oral tradition, which means that someone speaks and you hear. Writing had not yet been invented. And our main really craft was, and we were somewhat good at it, was just telling stories, taking notes, storing information. These are relatively new things. And as the stories travel around, some people add to the story, some people take away some of the components. So this story is called the Epic of Gilgamesh. And there is this scene, Gilgamesh is like Rais. Hello. What's your name?
Right.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. What's your last name?
Britt. Britt is my last name. I just registered.
Oh, you just, okay. When he was born, he had all sorts of different kinds of power. He was attractive physically. He was a king of a certain physical environment. But he was drunk. He was drunk with power. He was drunk because every woman and every man who would look upon him would envy how attractive he was. And he was also physically very strong. He was like Hercules. And it takes a while for all of us to kind of become tame. If you can speak well, if you look well, if you think well, these are all powers that you have. And even if you've experienced a trauma in your life and you're always walking around angry, bullying people, that is also a kind of power that intoxicates you. But all of a sudden, you find that there is this injustice in the universe. It's not because of Democrats or Republicans. It's not because you're African or Mexican or Persian. It's just part of life. Some people are born very attractive and some people are born not to be so attractive. Some people have sharp minds and the others are dull. And that's just the way things are. Nature creates a Khalil Gibran or a James Baldwin or a Michael Jordan, and the rest of us, we just covet, desire to be like them, but we'll never achieve that. For some strange reason, the gods really liked Gilgamesh. There was something about Gilgamesh and his relationship to the gods. And other people didn't have that. And so they create this environment where Gilgamesh falls in love with this man whose name is Enkidu. And it seems it's the only way anyone can learn anything that's worth learning. Not by reading books, not by sitting in a cave and meditating, not by going to workshops and listening to Eckhart Tolle or Sadhguru or Jordan Peterson. You gotta fall in love, man. And you gotta fall in love hard. The idea that you can't serve two masters in the Gospels, it's so true. It doesn't mean that you can't like other things, but you're home because the object of your love. And then something really interesting happens. He falls in love with this man who is not only physically attractive, but emotionally attractive, intellectually attractive, and there is something, if you want to believe in the spiritual stuff, Gilgamesh has found himself just spiritually intoxicated with this other guy, whose name is Enkidu. And then Enkidu dies. I mean, imagine you fall in love. Let's say you have a mom that you adore. You're willing to sacrifice everything for a mother or a father or a wife or a husband or a child. And then they die. And then what usually happens in moments of despair and depression, you go back in time and you try to tap into all of your experiences, the books you've read, the churches you've gone to, and the messages, they gave you, but none of those things really work for you anymore. And you find yourself in this dark pit, and there is no escape. And it's like being a turkey in the oven, you sit there, and you slowly get cooked. Some people never get cooked. It's far too much, and they simply end their lives and go away, or just become chronically depressed. But not Gilgamesh. Because for some strange reason he was chosen. He goes on this journey. And it's a very, very difficult thing, The moment you realize that books can't help you, other people can't help you, your memory, your experiences can't help you, you're on your own, that's where the real learning comes about. No one can hold your hand except you yourself. So, yeah, there you have it. It doesn't mean anything, but it was just a nice story. Anyone else? A disclaimer, Mondays are usually bad for me. I don't usually speak very much English Friday to Sunday, and I come to class Monday usually exhausted. So it takes me about 45 minutes to an hour to get warmed up. Anyone else before we... No? Go home.
I thought you just might have some.
No, I don't have much. Yeah.
When we talk about that was allegory of the cave. That was good. That was very good. I knew about it.
Well, you can't really talk about Plato without talking about Socrates. And you can't talk about Socrates without talking about... what's the woman who taught him? Diotima? It's a woman somewhere in the hut. And you can't talk about Diotima without talking about love. So it depends which one you want to talk about.
Sure, let's talk about love.
Love?
Why not? It's a great topic.
Okay, anyone else?
Thank you.
I have a question.
Yeah.
How much can love change the trajectory of our life? Because it seems like in many of the things you talked about, love is something that is coming up.
How old are you?
18.
Forgive me, okay? This is just a nice little hypothetical. Imagine that I'm 18 and you're 18. And regardless of your orientation, let's say I fall in love with you. Now, some types of love can happen very quickly. Another type happen very, very slowly and gradually. In other words, I come to class. Hello. I look at you, and for some strange reason, something about me says, man, Wesley is interesting. I don't know what it is. Okay. Now, that's instantaneous, if you want to categorize it as such. But there is another kind of love, which is, I have a question about the class, the instructor is a little nuts. I call you and say, what the hell is this guy talking about? And you and I go to a coffee shop, and I'm basically using you. Okay, I don't want to fail the class. And as you and I hang out more and more, I realize that when I go home, I begin to think about you more often and feel about you more often and fantasize about you more often. And then one morning I wake up and I say, I wonder what Wesley is doing. I wonder what he's eating. I wonder where he is. I wonder if he has other friends. And then little by little, I realized the emotion that was so casual at the beginning has kind of exploded or blossomed within me. And then I come to you shaking a little bit. I say, Wesley, I got to tell you something. I'm in love with you. Now, this particular love has taken about, say, 2, 3, 4, 5 months. The other just had this very powerful, very intimate, it had this very immediate, like brain chemistry change of sorts, okay? Now, you're 18. What do you really have? Nothing. Intellectually, you're a dimwit. I mean, no offense. You know, you may have had a lot of life experiences, but you haven't really been able to process the experiences well, because processing any experience is like having a blender. You know, you can go to Costco or Target and buy a blender for $10, or you can go to Costco and get one of those Ninja blenders for $500, okay, or Vitamix. And it usually takes a while to get to the Vitamix status. So I don't know why I'm attracted to you. I don't know why I love you, but I do. It's for all the wrong, stupid, infantile, childish reasons, American style. And then I either get bored, or I realize for whatever the reasons are, we're not compatible, or you find someone perhaps more weirier than I am and you walk away. Now, what happens is if I've invested a good amount of physical, emotional energy in this relationship, when you leave me, especially without any notice, it's what we call a trauma. It comes to me as a shock, it's like an earthquake. And then I gotta figure out what the hell to do with all these emotions that are kind of bubbling to the surface. I call you a few times, you rebuff me, you reject me, you don't answer my calls. I text you, and you say, you know, I'm going to tell my father and he's going to come your way and, you know, whatever. And so I don't have closure. I don't know what to do. So I become angry. And it's going to take me some time to kind of recover, depending on how much I've been invested in this relationship. The recovery period, if it's casual, it's a week. If it's not so casual, it may be a month, a year, 5 years, decades, who the hell knows. But what you have done is you have left a scar inside me. And it was my first time being in a relationship. I invested, I was innocent, sincere, but you destroyed everything. You know, it's like when someone runs to the father or the mother because it's their first relationship, and they just don't have the best of parents. And from the age 6 onwards, all of the relationships fall apart for the rest of their life. Unless they happen to be very lucky, they have someone walk into their life, or they have a great therapist, whatever the case may be. But this particular love has scarred me. That's not the sort of love we're talking about. We're talking about traumas that change you for the better. And the problem with traumas that change you for the better is that you won't see the better. It needs to take about 5, 10, 15, 20 years until you see. You know, it's like people saying to you, especially, they have to be a little older, in their 30s, 40s, 50s, where they say, well, if it wasn't for my first 25 divorces, I wouldn't be the person that I am today. It means they've gone over all this emotional stuff, observed, learned, understood, applied. Now they say, I'm great. You know, it's great that I went through all these divorces, all these traumas. So sometimes you fall in love with people solely on the physical level. You look at someone, they look attractive, you say yes. Some people are not very physically attractive, but there is something about them. You can call it emotional attraction. Sometimes someone is not emotionally very attractive, They're not physically attractive, but they raise their hand in class and they say things. And you realize the way they speak, there is something very attractive about the way they express ideas or themselves or whatever, and you become attracted to that. The problem with physical, emotional, intellectual is that they're like milk. They all have an expiration date. Hello? So when we talk about someone like Diotima or Socrates or Plato, Plato lived some 2,500 years ago. He still hasn't been expired. Jesus hasn't been expired. Malcolm X hasn't been expired. And those are the best kinds of people to hang out with. They just don't expire. Good luck. Anyone else before we... Marcos?
What is the quality about them that doesn't...
Oh, no one knows. I don't know. First, I don't know how they come about. I mean, I don't know all of a sudden how nature creates a Malcolm X. I don't know. His story is mind-boggling. It really, really is. James Baldwin, Gandhi, Jesus, Moses. They're like freaks of nature. They really are. You know, what kid witnesses his father being lynched, his mother turning to drugs, his siblings being taken away, being raised in foster care, living in a racist environment called America, being a thief, getting caught, ending up in prison, all of a sudden accidentally running into someone who inspires you to become religious, then falling in love with some guy you've never met named Elijah Muhammad, and then coming to realize you don't want to hang out with Elijah anymore. You want to kind of figure out your own voice, the music that lives inside you. How many people do you find in history, all of human history, who go through all these obstacles and yet they kind of walk away victorious? It's very, 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 very rare. You know, in a how-to culture such as this, they say, okay, read a couple of books and you can be a Gandhi. You know, wake up at 2 a.m, play some basketball, and you'll be like a Kobe Bryant. But the truth is, you know, we don't really know how these people are made. Now, all we know is that we don't know why, but when you kind of sit back and you listen to a Malcolm X talk or a Socrates talk, something about you says, I don't know why, but I'm attracted. You know, I don't know if you've seen the new image of Jesus. Anthropologists, sociologists came together some years ago, and they said, okay, well, this is the Middle East, and Jesus comes from this rough part of town. Let's see what he actually looks like. And you have to kind of look at all the people existing at that time. He's not blonde, he doesn't have blue eyes, he doesn't have fair skin. And for those of you who kind of can Google the new image of Jesus, he looks really, really unattractive. He's worse than Socrates. I mean, history has it that Socrates looked like a beast. And yet there was something profoundly attractive about him. And you need to ask yourself this question: why is it that, I mean, we are sensory animals, you know, that you look at something and you don't know why. You either are repelled by it or you walk towards it. Your senses, your eyes, are like your GPS, you know. And you look at someone like Socrates or Jesus, this image, and you say, yuck, they're so ugly. You don't want to hang out with them. And then they open their mouth and they speak. Now, all of a sudden, because of the way they speak, because of the tone of their voice, all of a sudden you become blind. You as the audience. Your ears now begin to open. It's like all of a sudden your ears have these eyes inside them. Okay? You don't look at Jesus through your eyes, but you listen to him. And whatever it is that he is saying, or Diotima, or Socrates, or Plato, or Malcolm, doesn't matter. You can change the names. Okay? And whatever they say goes inside you. and you find yourself slowly being kind of changed, moved. They inspire you in a very, very magical way. It really is a mystery. We don't know what it is. All you know is that all of a sudden you're attracted. Now, if you want to know why you're attracted, how this attraction came about, the truth is it's none of your business. You will never know, and you will never find out. It doesn't matter how many books you read, how many therapists you go to. It's just magic, just leave it as that. Okay? Now, I forget your question. Anyone else? Sibley? Yes.
I have a question about when you said we don't know, it's we, and what does it mean to know?
If you look at human history, we've always tried to figure out how to survive. And to be able to survive well and healthily, you need to know. You need to know your environment. You desire to know. If your relationship falls apart, you want to know why. If your child is doing something that you don't like, you want to know why. If this class is confusing, you want to know why. If you need to graduate, you need to figure out what classes you need to take. This is what we've do, and this is what we've done for thousands of years. We are in the business of knowing how things work so we can function. Okay? So that's, first of all, that's what we do. Okay? We're in the business of figuring things out. We are condemned. And it's never enough. Okay. If your question is, I'm sorry, what was your question?
Well, my question was, when you said we don't know, we don't know how Jesus comes about or
right.
how that
Yeah.
comes about. Who's we, and what does it mean to know?
All I know is that when you speak, I'm attracted to the things that you say. Why am I attracted? The truth is, I don't know. How did you possess this particular quality? I don't really know. Why is it that I come and see you every single day? I don't know. All I know is that there is a quality to you that inspires certain parts of me. Now, what little I know about history is that the Buddha was able to inspire a lot of people. They just couldn't come to know what he was all about. Jesus inspired a lot of people, but none of the disciples could ever come to know what he was all about. They were just inspired. Muhammad inspired a lot of people, but inspiration is not enough. All that I know, the way things happen, is that people have the power to inspire us. Whether that inspiration eventually become a thing of knowing, that's a different story. Because for you to get to know anything well, you need to be a good student. And students are created. I mean, first, you assume that because you have some age on you, because you have some experience, you're a student. But the truth is, the more experience you have, the more biased you are, the stronger your belief systems, And so someone needs to walk into your life, destroy everything that you know, destroy your identity, meaning, belonging. And then once you become naked, emotionally, intellectually, even spiritually, then a couple of things happen. You either run away because it's too painful, or you can't run away, like Gilgamesh, you've fallen in love, and then you have this thing about you come about, which is one of the 7 deadly sins in Christianity, Catholicism, lust. You lust after this person, you lust after his or her knowledge, you lust after his or her being, because you want those things for yourself. Now, whether this lust, and after lust, you become greedy. Okay. And then you become proud of being lustful after, something that inspires you. I don't know if you like the Gospels or any of these texts, but if you are, Something about you says, I want to go home and read some more. I want to go home and watch another movie that's related to the literature. You know, I want to hang out with people who talk like this, feel like this, are like this. Okay? You know, and when it comes to knowing, you can know something theoretically, intellectually. And you can know something practically. And these are very, very different. You know, I can know what a healthy relationship is intellectually, but put me in one. Vacuuming, washing dishes, serving 40, 50, 60 people, having kids harass you, guests harass you, and then I will reveal my salt. Not only to you, but also to myself. Now, we are very lucky people because we are never tested. Our knowings, for the most part, are just intellectual knowing. It's theoretical.
Adversity tests them?
Yeah, we usually crumble. Unless you have a great support system. You know, there is nothing wrong with divorce. There is nothing wrong with a parent dying. I mean, these are just things that happen in life. But if you have a support system, in other words, if you have a death ritual, for example, if you come from a culture where your parents, let's just say my mom dies. In my culture, for the next 40 days, our house is always going to be packed with people. Because you don't want to grieve by yourself. It's too painful. You want other people. You want your neighbor or your aunt, your uncle, to share how they went through grieving themselves when they lost a parent or a child. And so through sharing the stories, your grief lessens a little bit, you know. And you listen, hey, how are you?
Sorry, I didn't.
No, this is not a class.
I just want to say hi.
It's good to see you.
Good to see you too. I didn't know you would be in here.
Yeah, I thought I was dead.
Not like that, but
Yeah.
because Wolf told me you have an online class.
I can't. Yeah. We changed the physical to online.
Yeah, Wolf was telling me about that. Ooh, damn. Sorry.
Well, you know, you're always welcome to come by, sit, relax.
Well, sadly, I have a class right now.
What is it?
It's English.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
But yeah, it was good seeing
It's
you.
good to see you.
I'll show up maybe Wednesday or next week.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'll bring coffee beans.
No coffee beans. Plenty. Thank you. It's good to see you. Anyways, anyone else? Ethan.
Not really a question. But are your Monday and Tuesday classes the same?
Tuesday, Thursday?
Yeah.
All my classes are the same.
Is it redundant that I signed up for Tuesday classes?
Do you know why you're able to speak? Because someone in your life taught you the alphabets and you had to repeat them over and over and over and over again until you were able to put them together to create words. And then you had to repeat them over again to be able to make sentences. And then you had to repeat the same sentences over and over again until you came to understand them. And repetition is part of life. Now, in a culture such as this, where repetition is frowned upon, where you get bored too easy, it doesn't go well with the modern psyche. But to learn anything, you do the same things over and over again for many, many, many years until you begin to learn to understand and then begin to learn how to apply. But you won't be able to apply for a long time. And even if you do, you'll fail. And then you have to overcome the failures to say, you know what, it's okay. I'll do it again. So for those of you in this class who say, well, you know, you spoke about the same thing on Wednesday, it's true. I've been talking about the same stuff for the past 30 years. It hasn't changed. Anyone else? You guys are so boring.
What creates an entertaining student?
I'm sorry?
What creates an entertaining student? So
What creates a...
what Yeah, I guess what did you take away from some of your favorite smoking
Nothing.
classes? Nothing.
No.
Fair.
Anaz? Mohammed? Mohsen? Taysir?
I really want to talk about that cave thing, but
It's a little complicated. I'm a little tired.
Shadows could be reality.
is there any,
What?
The caveman who thought reality was just shadows.
Yeah, for those of you who want to know about the cave, there is this show on TV. It's called Crudes. The Crudes. It's actually quite nice, yeah. Anyone else? That's it? Kendra?
Could you talk about what happens to us when we see something that we don't like about ourselves in other people?
What do you mean? Since you teach at San Francisco State, maybe I can see if I understand you. Let's say that you find me arrogant, not so likable, and you realize that when you teach in your own classes, you exhibit certain mannerisms of mine, that you and I have certain commonalities, and you say, well, if I don't like the way he talks and speaks and does this and does that, these are the same things that I do. And I'm sure that if I don't like Amir, other people may not like me either, so maybe I should change. Is that what you mean? Yeah?
Or in the reverse.
I'm sorry?
Or in the reverse. I know that I'm arrogant, and then I see you acting arrogant. What happens to me when I see that?
Nothing. I think experience have a tendency of inspiring us, waking us up for a moment. And then one of the nice things about us is that we forget. We are the sort of animals who don't enjoy carrying a cross for too long. It doesn't matter what kind of a cross you want to carry. You know, whether the cross that you're just a lazy student, or you don't think well, or you're just mean-spirited, or you don't do well in relationships. These are difficult things to witness about oneself. And so what happens is, first, because life is far too distracting, you forget some of the negative qualities live inside you. Second, despite our desire to want to change, we don't really want to change. And even if you do, it's far too difficult, because to change anything, the first thing you need to understand is you've cultivated years of habits. Habits is like you've built this building or you've created this highway. And for you to change, you need to destroy this highway and build a different one. And it's just very difficult. I mean, you have to kind of, in some ways, you have to kind of like people because everybody wants to change. But you almost also dislike people because they assume that they can when in fact they can't. I mean, one of the things about AA, if you've ever been around people who, drink a bit too much, is that even if they've been sober for 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, it doesn't take very much for them to go back to that world. They can always slip.